Hey, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're talking mesh. Mesh can be taught a few different ways and have a mindset of a few different things. Let's dive right in to the number one most important thing, practice. So how do you practice mesh? We teach it from a standpoint, we're gonna always have the mesh runners fully running, always running. So we're always working with a man mentality, like we're going against man coverage, outrunning guys. We're not gonna settle. We think that in practice, that makes the play too expensive to carry if you're gonna be working through settling through your zones. So in the game, we're gonna find mesh concepts where they do not settle. We wanna find mesh concepts where they keep running. The next thing about practicing mesh is that mesh's progression is going to be deep, mesh, middle. We really believe that you have to be able to hit a deep ball or have a deep throw on mesh. Old school air raid sometimes had quick routes or whatever, and you can totally do that. You're changing your progression of mesh. We think a bigger bang for buck for mesh is every time you call it, you could be dialing up 6. So how does that work? Most likely it's going to be a corner route, maybe a fade route from one of the outside receivers. It doesn't have to be an outside receiver, but it helps with his release. Also, mesh is all about the leverage that we line up our receivers in. So it lends itself for the bunch, tight, compressed sets. It does not have to be. You can certainly adjust your leverages of your receivers to make mesh work, but you don't want to give it all away by only running mesh out of one specific look. So how you camouflage mesh is important. The next thing I think is where on the field do you run mesh? Do you present it at the high red zone? Where are you presenting it? And so I think practicing mesh from a certain hash in a certain field space is incredibly important to making sure that mesh is a functional play for your offense. So what I love about teaching mesh is the eye progression for the quarterbacks, because you're really dedicated towards looking at what we would call uncapped space. You're really locked in is the deep open, is the space to the route side space to the mesh running across open, and then we're gonna work back to more of a zone beating middle route. Sometimes that's a middle curl, sometimes that's a dig. Today we're gonna work out of a tight snugs type formation where we're gonna run a route on the receiver deep on the corner. So we teach deep mesh middle. Sometimes the deep is that corner. Sometimes we consider the wheel or the rail route from the back as the deep route. The reason we teach that as a deep route is where the eye progression is. That route is going into deep space. So our eyes should be looking into the space that the route is moving towards, versus the mesh route is working laterally across the field. We're looking for that lateral space to be uncapped. So when we teach deep mesh middle, oftentimes we'll have a corner out to one side and a back swinging to the other side. Doesn't always have to be back to the boundary, although that's a common way you might see this, especially because the back to the boundary, if that's your deep side, gives your corner route the whole field to work with. And if you're in this condensed high red zone area, you're probably thinking the corner route's going to be running to the back pylon, giving you that much lateral space. The throw can actually be pretty deep as far as geography goes, as the crow flies, the throw to the corner route could potentially be a deep throw, even though you're on, say, the 15-yard line. So let's dive into mesh using the video game to teach it. So we're gonna work through, we're back in Ole Miss's playbook, and we're gonna go pistol, deuce, close, mesh, spot. This really checks a lot of boxes for us because we are going to be able to be in a pistol formation, so we have our outside zone look potentially still on. We really like to run outside zone out of pistol type looks. We're balanced, so the defense doesn't have one side or the other. And we could technically be running this either direction. We could be running mesh left, right. We've spotted the ball on the 15-yard line right hash. And the reason is I think it's really important to practice from the hashes. We've talked about that before. In real life, and just like in the video games, the geography of the field is incredibly important at the high school game, especially with how wide our hashes are. So let's take a look at our play art. By default, the left receiver, left outside receiver, your X receiver, he's running this vertical to like an out break. We're gonna change that through a hot route to a corner. So this is the shape we want. We have our deep mesh middle. And the first question is, who are we reading as our rhythm route? All things being equal, not taking in account any type of personnel, we're going to just simply do a number count here. In this instance, we have an apex to the field. We don't have an apex to the boundary. So our eyes are gonna go to the back first, then to the mesher to his side, and then to the middle, should both of those be capped. Let's run a few of these. Back. A few nuances on this back throw. We should be looking for a back shoulder throw to open him up and keep him safe. It keeps it underneath the safety, and often the back shoulder throw is going to beat man coverage as well. Let's keep working the back again. Back, mesher. So the reason we went to the mesher there was because we saw that the defender was capping the back's vertical space. They kind of ended up in the same spot. That could happen in real life, so you might need to adjust your splits. You might need to adjust how the back gets out in a real life situation. But what was good about using the video game here for the quarterback is we were able to see that vertically, the safety can drive down on the back, and we have that vertical route is capped. So we knew instantly to get to our mesh. Let's keep working this. Again, all things being equal, we're gonna work to the side that doesn't have the apex. Back. Back. There was a great example where my eyes weren't disciplined and there was somebody in the vertical route space of the back, should have gone to the mesh. Back, mesh, middle. I like the mesh. The back was covered vertically. We went right to the mesh. Back, mesh, middle. Fantastic. The back was covered vertically. The mesh was covered laterally. Opened up, middle curled. Now we have an apex to the boundary. They're onto us. Maybe we've been running outside zone that way. Now we're thinking we're gonna work the corner out of number one, and our eyes are gonna go to the corner space. It looks like this could be cap. It's cover two. We don't know what the corner is gonna do. It's a two shell, I should say. We don't know what they're gonna do. My eyes are just gonna go into that outside space, that corner out space. In real life, we would like that corner out to be aimed directly towards the back pylon, so that the quarterback's eyes and the receiver's eyes have a common landmark to lock onto. Let's see how we work this. Corner, mesh. The corner out was capped by the safety. We're instantly able to work our eyes down and ask if the mesh space was capped. The mesher's space was uncapped. We accelerated to the mesh. We're evened up. Looks like we're getting some type of pressure. We're thinking corner, mesh, middle. Corner, mesh, middle. Again, quickly going through your progression read, forcing your quarterback's eyes to look at specific zones on the field. Also, the cool thing about mesh can be a good teaching progression to start just looking at what the defense is presenting you with, from a very simple sense, numbers. We have an apex to the boundary. We're gonna go and take our shot to the corner. Corner, capped. We went to the mesher. It was tight. It was difficult because of probably the personnel there was in great position to make that play. A lot of times that field mesh, when it can beat its man coverage across the field, can be pretty wide open and be dynamic for a player. Really like the middle route here because the middle route gives you a zone beating type look, and in the chaos of mesh, that can get open. And I think that makes it so it's a play that, teaching-wise, you have maybe a 5-minute or less mesh period simply just for the receivers to learn their planes, who's over the top, who's under the mesh. I'm a fan of the old school clapping hands as you're crossing at 5 and 6 with your over and unders. It doesn't always have to be based on where the apex is or where the single high safety is. We're more worried about that giving a guide as to where you take your first rhythm. So we can work the corner route based on scouting, based on personnel, no matter what the defense's look is. It doesn't matter. We're looking into this route side space to see if it's capped. Let's take a look at let's just work the corner out here for a few minutes and see if we can hit a few. Corner, love it, take it, got it. Again, we're just looking for that space. As soon as the safety vacates off the hash inside, we know we have leverage, especially depending on the play of the cornerback. Corner, it's capped, going to the mesh right away. So whichever side we rhythm, we're gonna work our eyes directly down so the eyes have a very clear, we're looking at space. I think the most important thing to understand about teaching this way and using the video games is your quarterback's eyes are going to a space. We're gonna work the boundary here to the back. Back, pretty easy read. And you know, defensively, we could dive into what they're running and all that. I am more interested in the high school game having quarterbacks that throw with conviction. So yes, we could simulate more realistic defensive looks maybe in a certain situation. We could even set the defense to run exactly what your opponent's gonna give you in this situation. I think the most important thing is if we're using this as an install and as a process, making sure the quarterback has conviction in their throw. So our video game is exactly real to life? No, but it's chalk talk with a feedback. And I think that can't be overlooked here. Hey, quarterback, why are we working the corner out? I just like the field throw. Sweet, let's do it. Corner, mesher, middle, didn't need it. Hit the mesher to the field. All right, let's take it to an advanced thing you can do while teaching. Do you have a coach on staff who's decent with video? Do you have a GA who can screen record stuff? Because if you do, you have the potential to set up a bunch of really great teaching material for quarterbacks. It can be sent to their phone. It can be sent via app. It can be put on Huddle. It can be put on whatever video software you're using. It could be put on YouTube or Google Drive. But right now, we're working through Mesh. And so what a coach can do with his staff, you can get together and you can run Mesh. You can run it and run it so that you get the throws to each receiver on film from the quarterback's perspective. Now, I don't like going fully into the quarterback's eyes. It doesn't translate when you're using a phone. But what we can do is, what I do think translates, is for us to use what I would call the Fortnite view. It's a game, it's a shooter game where you're over the shoulder of a single player. And what we can do with this view is we can teach with it. So for this one, we're just gonna hit from right here behind the quarterback, and we are reading the corner for that corner space to the mesher to the back to the middle of the field. And in doing this, this trains the eyes of the quarterback. And again, you can create a GIF out of this, put this onto a playbook. You can put a video and embed this video in there. It does require a coach who understands how to screen grab and screen record. You could just hold your phone up to the television and film that too. That's an easy way to do this and send it to your players. So let's go ahead and pretend we're in a quarterback meeting right now and I'm controlling the remote. I now can move the camera around and pause time. And that's one of the really cool parts about this. So I can drop back and say, hey, quarterback, am I thinking corner right now? Heck no, that space is capped vertically. Safety's in that space, we're not making that throw. The next question is, do I have the mesher? And you know what, I might, but the quarterback, we could have a good discussion about this. We have two guys that can drive on that. I don't like that. So the quarterback in the meeting can see that I instantly don't like corner, I don't like the mesher, and I can get my eyes back to the middle. So now you're seeing the game more from the quarterback's eyes, and I'm able to manipulate where the camera goes. What a tool to use is that manipulation in a room of high school kids. Corner, mesher, middle. And again, if you have a coach who's pretty good at it, they can swing this remote around and literally use this as a training progression for the eyes while running the play. Corner, mesher, middle. Eye training and cognition. It's where video games have an advantage. Using this, you can go through every progression. Corner, obviously not there. We can run it back and see how the corner route is capped. Nothing comes down to it. Corner route is capped. Corner. So we know now that our mesh side space is open. Uncapped space. Corner, mesher, get it out. Corner, mesher. And they can see this. You can hypnotize your team into making the proper eye discipline reads on mesh. How cool is this? Corner, mesher, right there. 6. Corner. So let's work the rhythm route, the corner space itself. So now we see right here, the deal of the defensive back, the depth, eyes, and leverage. His depth is under 5. His eyes are inside. His angle and leverage is facing the quarterback. It's gonna be really hard for that cornerback to flip his hips and make a play on a pylon throw. So not only are you working actual cognition, You can work landmark throws and put this directly into your digital playbook. The drawing can be there, but how cool is it that you can deliver quarterbacks an over-the-shoulder view of every single rep in the progression using the video games? So does the same teaching progression work for back when you're reading the back as your deep receiver? You bet. Let's take a look. Back. I can see right now that I have uncapped space. The depth, eyes, and leverage of the DB in the running back's vertical space, he's vacated it. I know now I can get the ball out. Back, right there. Changing the angle and changing the how we see playbooks. There's no reason that we can't be using these tools and sending these videos out on phones that everybody has. All you need is a PlayStation and a screen. Again, you could screen capture this if you want to present something very professional looking. There's no reason I can't just take my iPhone, hold it up to the screen, and film this and send it to my quarterbacks. Hey, how do we know that the back is the open receiver here? Because his route side space is uncapped. And now I'm more or less in the perspective of the quarterback. Yes, it's not exactly in his eyes, but by being in this Fortnite view, you create a peripheral vision that's not capable unless you're actually in full VR. And even then, full VR does not have the customization and the accuracy that NCAA 26 has. I hope you enjoyed this episode of One Hot Mesh. I can't even say that without laughing. We'll catch you next time with pre and post snap RPOs. Peace.